This is a tutorial on how to loom knit a toddler sweater, and if this is going to be an 18 to 24 month size, and this is what it looks like on. You'll need a 36 peg loom and a 24 peg loom and two contrasting skeins, 4-ply, and if you want to add an applique you can. So I'm using the Nifty knitter looms, and I'm going to be using the 36 peg loom and the 24 peg. The 24 is going to be my sleeve and the 36 my body. I'm using a navy blue and a white in Simply Soft, and I'm only going to be using one strand, and as you can see it's a medium yarn, and I'm only going to be using one strand. And the reason for this is I don't want it to be too thick where you get too hot wearing it. So go ahead and E-wrap cast on 36 pegs. And you're going to be working flat. You're not going to be working circularly. That's on the sleeves. This is the body part. But the reason for using the one strand is so that it's not too thick and it doesn't get too warm for the child. And now what you want to do is you want to do a knit for 36 pegs. And the reason why I do a knit my first row is so that it's a little easier to see to tighten my cast on. And you don't have to, but it gives it a much nicer and neater look when you go in to tighten the cast on. So this is the reason why I do the first row as a knit. Next, I'm going to knit one, purl one, 18 times. So you're doing knit one, purl one all the way around. And you should finish with a purl. So knit and purl. And what we're doing is we're creating a ribbing at the bottom of the body. And that's how we're starting. We're starting from bottom to top. Now, if you're going to want to do the larger size, just remember that to do the larger size, if you want to do a 3T to 4T, you'll need to do 2 extra rows for every increase in size, while still using this loom. You're mostly extending the length. Now you want to purl one, knit one 18 times, all the way around. So for instance, I'm doing an 8-row change in color on the 18 to 24 months. When you go to do this, you want to do, if you're doing a 3T, you want to do 10. If you're doing a 4T, you want to do 12 on your row changing. So go ahead and repeat those last 2 rows 3 more times. So go ahead and pause the video to complete. Now we want to change color to our contrasting color, and mine's navy blue. So we're going to go ahead and change our color and do our first stripe. And from here on out, we're not doing any more purling for the first panel. The only time you do the knit purl is on the start of each sleeve and each panel. So from here on out it's just straight knit. So you want to knit 36 pegs for a total of 8 rows for the 18 to 24 months, 10 rows for 3T, and 12 rows for 4T, size 4T. If you're wanting to go smaller, then you're going to have to do some calculating, and you'll need to go down to the 31 peg loom. Now go ahead and pause the video to complete the row. Now we want to change back to our light color, and we're going to do the exact same thing we just did in the dark color. And we're going to knit 36 pegs for 8 rows in your light color, repeating just what we did in the dark color. And so you want to go ahead and do that for a total of 8 rows. And remember, for the 3T, 10, 4T, 12, and you want to repeat the colors 2 more times. So this is what it should look like. It should be dark, light, dark, light is what it should finish out as. Now we're going to start decreasing, so we're going to change back to our dark contrasting color. And if you're planning on doing the 3T or 4T, you'll need to add a row in between the decreases because you want to do the same amount of decreases so that you end up with being able to fit it on a 36 peg loom. So go ahead and do your first row as a knit. If you're doing the 3T, then you need to just do 2 straight knit rows. If you're doing the 4T, then you need to do a third row of straight knit before decreasing. If you do want a larger neck area, then you could try to fit it onto the 41 peg loom. Go ahead and decrease by 1 on each end, and then you want to just straight out knit. You can go up to the next loom size and make the neck area larger if you'd like. These patterns I give you are mostly guides. You can adjust them however you want to work for the size you need. So go ahead and repeat those last 2 rows 3 more times so that you have a total of 8 rows. And pause the video, and as you can see, we have 4 on each side. Now we want to change to our light color, and we're going to repeat pretty much what we just did with knit a row, decrease, knit a row, decrease. For 8 more rows. So start off by knitting all the pegs. and then decrease by 1 on each end, just like you did with the navy color or your darker color. Now go ahead and repeat the last 2 rows 3 more times. And now you see you have 8 pegs free on each side. Now we want to change back to our darker color, and we're going to continue this pattern that we're doing of knit a row, decrease, knit a row, decrease. So go ahead and knit a straight row. And then decrease by 1 on each end. And knit the row. Again, if you're doing the larger sizes, you won't want to overlap. If you choose to go up to the next loom size and move all the loops to that, then you don't want to overlap the loops at all, like I show later on as a suggestion. Okay, now you want to continue what we've been doing to repeat the last 2 rows 3 more times to get a total of 8 rows, and then we'll move on. Okay, I've just completed, and you want to repeat the exact same thing we just did, and you want to repeat 2 of these, and then on the first one you do, you'll want to put the loops on a stitch holder. You can cast them off if you would like. Do a loose cast off if you don't want to do the stitch holder and then just sew the turtleneck on. It's up to you. This is how I'm doing it. You can make it more simplified. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the sleeve next. And you'll need your 24 peg loom, and you want to start off with your light color, and you want to be working circularly, and you're going to E-wrap cast on 24 pegs. Again, I would suggest tightening your cast on. You do not have to do this if you don't feel comfortable with it, but it does give a nicer look. Now you want to work circularly and knit 24 pegs. Again, this makes it a little easier to see what loops you need to pull next when you tighten your cast on later. So that's the reason for the first row being a knit. But yeah, if you don't trust doing the stitch holder, you can just you can go ahead and cast them off loosely. And I'm going to put several links, because I don't show it on here, how to do a loose cast off that other people have done. So I'm going to put several video links of what other people have done on showing how to do a loose cast off. Now you want to knit 1, purl 1 12 times for a total of 8 rows. Again, stick to your rows if you're doing the 3T or 4T. 10 for 3T, 12 for 4T. As I was saying, if you don't want to do the stitch holders, you want to follow the video links below on how to do a stretchy loose cast off. I apologize for not having done it myself yet. I'll probably get there. And you can do that instead, and that way you can just sew on the turtleneck rather than having... I didn't want to do the seam, which is the reason why I did it in this particular way. So go ahead and change to your contrasting color, to your dark color. Again, I hope that these are more like guidelines you can change to make it easier for you. Now we're going to start straight knitting, so knit 24 pegs for 8 rows. Now, I've had some people say they have a little difficulty keeping this kind of knit looser. They get it too tight. I'm barely holding the yarn over the pegs, and I'm lightly tossing them over and pulling it back a little bit to keep it looser. But go ahead and do 7 more rows and pause the video, and you'll want to do the same thing as you did with the front panel. 8, 8, 8, and 8. So navy white, 2 more times, just like we did with the front, but working circularly. And this is what it should look like. Now we're going to change to our contrasting color, and we're going to start working flat from here. So we're going to start going back and forth rather than one direction. And our first row is going to be a straight knit in the opposite direction. This is going to open up that circular motion that we've been doing to be able to decrease the next row. So go ahead and knit all 24. Now you want to decrease by 1 on each end. And this first decrease may give you a little trouble because you are separating the circular section. I don't like doing too much sewing, so I'll save myself sewing. Okay, then you want to knit all the pegs after you decrease. Okay, so you want to repeat the last 2 rows 3 more times and pause the video to complete. And then you want to change the color and knit the first row. And just straight out knit. I'm sorry. You want to repeat that decrease, knit straight, decrease with the navy and the white, and then you want to knit the straight, the navy. You want to knit straight 8 rows. Sorry about that. You're following along the lines of the same pattern that you did for the front and back. So I'm going in and tightening the cast on. If you're finding you're not picking up the right loop next, as you can see, if I feel like I'm not finding the right loop next, I tend to pull it out to find where my next loop might be to pull it. On the flat panels, it's a lot easier than the circle. Okay, now we're going to start transferring everything over to the 36 peg loom. And we're going to start taking everything that's on our stitch holder and putting it back onto the loom. Now, if you don't feel comfortable with this, go ahead and do a loose cast off and then do the turtleneck after this point of putting all the loops back on. So I'm overlapping by 1, as you see, and then I'm placing all the loops on each new peg after that for the sleeve. And we're going to overlap the end loop for each new piece added. So when you go to add the middle, so there's that, and you're going to overlap the last loop. Make sure that when you're putting these pieces back on that the right side is facing you. As you can see, I overlapped on the first loop, and then I put all the loops on there consecutively after that. Okay, and if you've got your ends there, you can go ahead and tie those together so that they'll quit moving. I find it makes it a little easier, but always remember that the right side is going to be facing you and your wrong side should be facing in to the center of the loom. Now you're going to take your other sleeve off using your stitch holder. My other reason for doing the neck area this way is because I wanted to make sure that it stayed stretchy. When you go to start sewing on the neck to the body, you can possibly get the neck area too tight, and then you won't be able to get the child's head through. So that's my other reasoning for doing this. Again, overlap the first loop and then put all the loops on consecutively. And there's the last one. Now, I didn't cut my navy strand from the last sleeve, so that's going to be my new starting point. And you can put a marker there to where your new starting point is. You can put a piece of tape there, whatever's going to make you feel more comfortable, but on all your connecting pieces, on the end should have two, as you can see. Now I'm going to move my little tape marker here from another project over to my new starting point, which is right there. Again, you can take a piece of tape or you can take an actual marker as your new starting point. It's up to you. And now you just want to knit 36 pegs. And when you get to the two loop places, make sure you toss both loops over. Okay, at this point you're going to continue knitting all the pegs for a total of 15 rows, and then go ahead and pause the video to complete. And then you're going to change color to do a nice top trim of white, and you're going to knit 36 pegs for 3 rows. And then go ahead and follow the links below the video to get how to do a loose cast off. So go ahead and pause the video and complete the loom rows. Okay, we have a loose cast off, and now what we want to do is sew up our sides and our sleeves, and we want to make sure that we line up our stripes. The more lined up your stripes are, the better, and the nicer it will look, and closer to looking more store-bought than homemade. So go ahead and thread your needle. And you want to try lining up the sides as close as you can. And you want to go and find the very edges of your garment. And that can be difficult because, as you can see, it's rolling up. So that might be a challenge for you to find the very, very end edges. But go ahead and sew the sides up, finding where the stripes begin and end and making sure your stripes are lined up perfectly. Now I'm using the white to sew up all the seams, but if you are even more particular, you can stop and do the navy stripes and the navy and the black, the white and the yarn and the white stripes if you want to really be particular about it. But I'm doing white entirely. And what I like to do is as I'm sewing along, I'll make it snug and then I'll pull it out to give it a little bit of stretch to help with that. So also line up your sleeve areas at the top too from the neckline and make sure that everything is lined up color wise, and go ahead and sew your sleeve area up. And you want to make sure it's lined up with the white stripes and the blue stripes on both sides. And once you sew up your sleeves and your sides, then you're done, and you can feel free to crochet your own applique or find an applique you'd like to put in the center to give it a nice touch, but go ahead and finish sewing up. And this is what it should look like when it's done. And this is what it looks like with a nice applique in the middle. And you're done.